really interesting picture. It reminded me of our surveillance society that we tend to live in. Everything is well composed. We don't have any problems with, for example, having the horizon in the center. The two eyes are looking directly at the subject. The subject is well placed, and this one is held.
Ancient lava field of Badir.
You know, I've seen this picture of this church so many times, but this is giving me a unique point of view on it. We have the trench from where I'm assuming a volcanic eruption at some time, that makes your eye follow through straight to that church in the beautiful background where it is. It's a hold. Very nice image. This also,
Borealis over.
yeah, this also is a very, very common image. I've seen so many of them. And you have to realize, let me give you an idea. Here's how I look at things. First, I look for the impact of a photograph. Then I look for the originality of the photograph. Then I look for a center of interest in the photograph and the composition, and then the technique. So, for example, I'm less interested in noise in a photograph than many, many other judges are. This is one that is beautifully done, beautifully rendered. But to me, it's a very common photograph. It's readily seen, but it still stays, it's held, it's in.
Baby penguin.
This penguin, the beautiful part of the penguin is the penguin itself. In this case, I sort of wish that the photographer had either blurred the background more or had, for example, selected the penguin itself, and it might have been a little bit difficult around his head, but it's not undoable, and darkened out that background a bit more. Now let me see if I chose to keep penguin or not. No, not held.
Docked in Darien.
Typical sunset picture, very well composed. Again, at least we don't have any problems with the center being the main part of interest. But remember what I said, I want to have something where you need to look. Is it at the sunset on the left? Is it the boats on the right? This one doesn't quite qualify as any of those, and it's not held.
Geometrical composition.
A beautifully done photograph here. It's definitely going to be held. We have the rectangular part cut by a triangle that is leading into the rectangles on the right side and in the center. Beautifully done architectural and abstract study, held.
Giving a blessing.
Very common, again, picture of a Buddhist monk sitting there hoping for either donations or a chance to talk to you, and they do love to talk, but it is also very normal, very done. I have some problems with the little bit of extra highlight over his, now let's see, left eye on the right-hand side of the picture. Not held.
Going
this
bananas.
Was a wonderful picture. And here I ran into the problem with the kilobyte images, because this was about a 214 kilobyte image. And when I looked at it, I said, it's really a noisy image. There's noise in the, I don't know what it is, I call it a gorilla, in his cheeks, in his hands, and the part that makes it lose more than it should, it's not really sharp, not held.
Hello, spring.
Whomever composed this picture did a wonderful job of making sure that there was no interference in the background. Every part of this flower is sharp. Every part of this flower is well composed. I might have taken off a bit on each side of this image, so I didn't have so much black space on the left and black space on the right. But otherwise, this picture is held. Here we're trying to use infrared to an effect that works at least partially well here. We have a beautiful scene, very well composed with a nice triangular part in the lower right, leading you into the bridge, leading you across the way into the trees. And then, at least in my mind, where do I absolutely want to look? What part is drawing me in? Is it the fence leading into the picture at the lower right? Is it the bridge going into the little island there? Or is it the trees in the background? This is an attempt to make infrared take an ordinary picture and make something special. And in my case, since I've done a bunch of infrared, I didn't quite find it that way, and I chose not to hold it.
Jesus saves.
This is quite an amazing picture. There is so much to look at in this photograph. You know, we have the chaos of the modern world. We have a mailbox. We have all sorts of writing going on in one of the images about 2 squares away from Jesus saves, with an eye looking at you with lettering going. This is a stunning, thoughtful image, and it's held.
Jet blue.
You know, you see 1.5 million bird pictures, and I'm a really lousy bird photographer. But this one is special. We have this tremendous amount of negative space, and yet we have this very sharp bird. He or she is in perfect focus. You have enough details in its feathers, and you have it looking perfectly at the corner of the picture. Wonderful image, stays in, held.
Kurt Jofelfas.
What makes this picture such a wonderful success is 2 things. First of all, you have the person that gives scale. Secondly, you have the blur of the waterfalls. It's really nicely done, but to my mind, again, and remember, I'm only a single judge. Everybody else may look at this very differently. I find it, I've seen it a lot, so it's not held.
Layers.
And the same thing goes for this photograph as the previous one. Beautiful image of the Grand Canyon, perfectly exposed, no horizon to worry about, nice sets of clouds up in the top left, a little bit of clouds in the top right, beautifully worked out image. But again, a lot of them I've seen, and in this day and age with 14 zillion photographs out there every day, it's got to be special, and this is not, and is not held.
Lifeguard.
I loved this image, trying to figure out, to me, it was a composite. Certainly with the lifeguard seeming to be under the water line, with a person under the water on the right, another one under the water on the left, with the sky going around. This picture is definitely a contender, and it's held. Beautiful colors to boot. Let me comment more on this, because unlike the monkey picture, there's noise in this picture. The noise enhances this image. It's part of this image. If this was a tack sharp image, I don't think it would work as well. So held.
Lightfall.
Back to what I said earlier, 1 million pictures of this. Some are more spectacular than others. This is a relatively ordinary one to me that's perfectly exposed, perfectly taken. You worked into the light in the little bit where the cliff begins to come in on you. Even that isn't particularly blown out. It's really good, but to me, I've seen a lot of them. It's common, and it's not held.
Little cabin.
It's definitely a little cabin. I wondered if the photographer had possibly chosen a different perspective of this. Yes, it's a little cabin with some huge trees that could easily, if one of them fell over, just totally demolish it. But maybe a slightly different angle would have made this one more interesting to stop your eye as you're walking by, let's say, a bunch of images in a gallery as you're talking about going back into prints, which I love. would catch your eye more than this one. Not held.
Maiden voyage. It's maiden is Meyden, which refers to the bridge.
Yeah, really, really, really interesting photograph. I could not make up my mind if this was somebody who actually stood in the middle of a roadway and took this. The two people further on in the background are fascinating in themselves. I enlarged it to take a look, and it looked like the fellow in blue, or girl in blue, I couldn't tell, was photographing the other person. This has such impact. It pulls your eye in immediately. There's not a bad thing in this photograph whatsoever. Held.
Musical perspective.
Now, here's an interesting one. This was a kilobyte image, a couple of 100 kilobytes. Yet, it's nicely sharp. It's a unique angle at looking at a guitar. Most of us would photograph a guitar, looking at the strings, looking at the hole, looking at everything in this image. Somebody thought about taking this image, putting it in a space that you wouldn't normally see it, putting a perfect line across the very top of it, which breaks the image into 2/3 and 1/3, and it's a stunning image, and it's held.
Parallel pollination.
Yes, and it certainly is. I'm looking at the two insects that are doing their job. It's really nice. The one thing, again, perfectly exposed, except for the slightly blown out highlights in the center of the image, which is the flower on the left. To my mind, this picture would have worked better if it was a square and the whole third of the left was, of the right rather, excuse me, was left out. Not held.
Potential.
This picture created a bunch of problems for me. Again, the whole left side of the picture wasn't really needed. I would encourage the photographer who took this to get a little bit closer to the important part, which is in the center of the image. On the bottom left of the image, we have an out of focus thing that pulls my eye away. On the right-hand side of the image, we have a blown out highlight in both the red part of the plant and the green plants next to it that take your eye away from the two center things. In this case, I would have liked the photographer to have gotten closer to those two buds, photographed them, gave them a little chance in the background to work by themselves. Not held. Again, we have an infrared photograph shot straight on. And in this case, I have a distinct feeling, you know, my eye follows this line of the road down, and it leads me into the back of the trees, and it leads me out of the photograph. I wonder if the photographer in this case had, for example, bent down a little bit further and looked up at those trees a bit more and bent them in a way that it would have added some dynamism to what is a rather static image. And no, it does not stay in.
That one was, incidentally, that was Sunny Path.
Say again?
That one was Sunny Path.
Okay.
This one is Sunset Fishing.
Yeah, that went, you know, first I couldn't make up my mind before I read the title whether it was a sunset or a sunrise, because a lot of fishermen like to go out. Perfect exposure again, no problems with the sun, but again, a very common image, very well done. Wouldn't mind having it on my wall, but it wouldn't be one that for me would win in a contest, so it's not held.
Sunset over Korea.
I found the title on this utterly fascinating. Couldn't make up my mind if it was a bunch of computer chips, if it was a bunch of computers, just repeated and repeated and repeated. Beautifully done. Loved the extra blue of the sky just at the top left, and this one stays in.
Sunset with Creek.
Well, you already know my feelings about some of this, but this one happens to be rather better than, let's say, the earlier one, in that we have the creek that is following, leading you in from the lower left, perfectly exposed, towards the sunrise across. but with the sunset or sunrise showing in the water itself, it's not quite cut in half. It's like 60-40. It's a really nice image, and this one is held.
Sweet Cascade.
Beautiful conception in this image. Beautifully composed. Love the way everything follows through and works. Background is obviously done, thought out perfectly. The spoons are sharp. The dripping oil is sharp, or molasses. It's really a nice image. It's held.
Sweet Karina.
Sweet Corinne could have been improved a bit more, but let me tell you the good parts first. Her eyes are tack sharp. Her lips are tack sharp. The way her hands are set is beautiful. The ring on her finger is beautiful. Her lips are beautiful. This would have been improved by one simple thing, a little bit of a reflector on the left-hand side of the picture, the right-hand side of her, that would have brought out more detail in the hair that's within the hat and would have taken the hard shadow off of a very beautiful young lady's face. So it's not held.
The Big Apple.
This is a scary photograph. I mean, it looks like I'm about to be eaten by this. The placement of this apple is just about perfect in this picture. I think if it had been another millimeter up into the ceiling and not show a little bit of its background, it might not have worked quite as well. It works exceedingly well. I have a distinct feeling the noise was added in this photograph to enhance it. The picture on the right works with it. The people on the left outside of the window works with it. And you wonder, how did this thing get in there? And it's definitely held.
The Tree.
Yes, we have a flowing walkway leading to a flowing architectural structure. It's a beautiful image, well done. I have some minor complaints with whatever the antenna or the things are on the left outside of where we have the flow in. I don't see an easy way of eliminating them except by possibly cloning them out, and I'm not sure that would have worked. I also have a bit of complaints with the stark whiteness on the very right to the right of the fence, the walkway itself. And this one I chose to leave out.
All right. We have completed the color images.
Okay.
So now I get to attempt to get to the monochrome one.
Okay, let me switch my stuff.
So while I'm doing that, anybody want to comment anything?
I'm listening.
If anyone wants to comment anything.
Well, not on the images, just any, but let's just go to monochrome there, Daryl.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm working on it. Okay. Hang on.
Take your time.
Good, I get a chance to take a drink of water.
Yep. April mono coming up. Here it is.
All right, this one contradicts
Do you
half of
see
the
it?
things I said earlier.
Silent run through. Silent run through.
Oh, sorry, okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's it. Not a lot of them.
Okay, no problem. This one sort of contradicts a whole bunch of stuff I said earlier in that, yeah, I've seen a whole bunch of these images before. In the Princeton Club, we had several photographers that specialized in this, and yet this one hit me straight in the face. I love the way this man is looking at me. He's staring through me. The exposure is perfect. There's literally no blown out highlights. Look at the detail in his hat on his right, our left-hand side. Look at the detail in his face on his left-hand side, our right-hand side. It's still there. This is a wonderful evocation of a man who is enjoying what he is doing. It stays in.
And that got by without me saying the title, which is Big C.
Big C. I knew what it was.
This one is Brian with Auto Harp.
Yes. Brian with Auto Harp doesn't quite make it as much as Big C did. The face is very good, but he in his own way is in his own place. I found his arm not being in focus to be a bit of a problem for me. I also found that the building part growing out of his head and out of his shoulder and the excess stuff on his right, on his left, our right, to be annoying. I would have darkened the background on the right and probably eliminated at least the one coming out of his head. So no, it does not stay in, not held.
Chicago traffic lights.
This is more than just traffic lights. I mean, with 6 lights there and 5 lights there and all of this stuff going on, it shows the crowdedness, the chaos almost that any large city is. It's a sepia tone, it's beautifully done, and it stays in.
Cowboy by design.
I love these boots. I mean, they're all worn, they're all done. They've shown they've been used forever. Again, exposure is perfect. Placement is beautiful. No blown out highlights. Nice and sharp all over. It's an evocative image of hard-working men. Stays in. Held.
Driftwood nature's sculpture.
Perfectly exposed, perfectly done, but to me, a rather static image. Yes, I know it's driftwood, but I had a little bit of trouble with the first part of the driftwood coming in from the bottom left, but not being complete. Another part of it going out to the right, but not being complete. And the top part disappearing off the top. I loved the placement of the boat, the fishing boat. If it had been anywhere else in this photograph, I don't think it would have worked as well. And that placement and the thought, I might have gotten further down and taken a look at, let's say, placing that boat a little bit closer to those almost claw-like parts of the driftwood. But it stays in, it's held.
El Pinon is gone.
El Pino is gone is a photograph that you see quite frequently. Again, you guys or girls don't ever get anything wrong with exposures. Everything is done right, but it's not telling me a story that I need to know that I haven't seen before. And I'm particularly bothered by whatever is the building behind it on the left, which is a modern building. Yes, I can understand El Pino is gone, but it doesn't quite talk to me, so it's not held.
Elegant design.
And it is beautifully placed, beautifully thought out. Background is perfect. Everything just works. The way the shadowing goes from left to the right, the lighting is wonderful. This is a still life that simply works, simply talks. My minor complaint, and this may only be me, is I might have taken off a little bit on the right and actually squared this off a bit more, but that's a minor complaint. This is held.
End of days.
Interesting name to the photograph. And if it really is, wow. But interesting enough, a perfectly done exposure again. We have 2 people who are not particularly young, sitting on a beach where it looks like in the wintertime, looking at the water, and then all of a sudden they're peacefully sort of looking at this explosion taking place in the sky. I don't think they would have quite reacted that way unless they were actually looking forward to the end of days. This, to my mind, would have made a wonderful picture without the burst. But having said that, this stays in. It's held.
Extraterrestrial garden.
I would like to know how the photographer came up with the name of this, because to me it looks like quite a terrestrial garden, perfectly exposed, perfectly done, no highlights blown out, no nothing. The composition is rather good, but there's no particular center of interest for me to take my eye, and where it goes to the square thing below the tree, it doesn't hold me there. What would have held me better is if the bench to the left had been more of the center of attraction, as if the photographer had moved over a bit to the left and worked with that. In that case, it's not held.
Fairy Batman.
Very interesting concept, very interesting work, but it's not sharp. Now, I don't know if it's the kilobytes or not, but Batman himself, itself, is not. I'm distracted by the two objects in front of him. I'm distracted by the highlights behind him. And in this case, I don't really find it works as well as I think it could have. Again, if we had taken off about a fifth of the left, it might have worked a bit better, but unfortunately it's not held.
Falcon in flight.
Beautiful composition, lines at the bottom, contrast well with the lines of the, whatever it is, the building in the background. Highlights are held well, except in one or two of the, whatever you want to call them, the protrusions from the building itself. The one on the left is blown out, the one below it is blown out a little bit. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more detail in it, but there's enough stuff that's interesting and draws your attention that this one stays in.
Finish form.
Are you sure this is finish? I'm seeing a bunch of burpees. I'm seeing a bunch of Muslims. It's like a whole different thing. But again, whomever took this photograph made a wonderful image, well composed, well thought of. The bottom third moves in, brings you into the main part of the image, brings you up to the top of this building, brings you back down, brings you into the two ladies walking away. This picture is very nice, and this picture stays in.
Yeah, I can tell you it's a photo from the Middle East.
From where?
The Middle East.
I thought so.
I'll tell you why it's
didn't look
finished
finished to me.
I'll tell you why it's finished. Hassan II Mosque, Casablanca.
Yes, a beautiful done, again, well composed snapshot in this case. A lot of people would stand around and take this picture. It's a great way of composing around the mosque itself and making it work. But again, I've seen so many of these that even though this is beautifully done, it doesn't stay in, it's not held.
Iceland's volcanic coastline.
Which illustrates exactly the Iceland volcanic coastline, I'm assuming, since I've never been there. But the impact of it is not quite there, even though it's perfectly composed as far as the way the rocks on the bottom go into the rocks on the left, go to the main rock in the center. It's not something that brings me back to say, I've got to look at this again. Not held.
Potential energy.
Say the title again, please.
Potential energy.
I think the title says a great deal about this very, very wonderful image. I mean, whomever composed this, whomever thought about putting that ball on top of these forks, taking the forks and making a reflection out of it, and then blending this background from the lightness of the bottom to the darkness of the top without taking anything out of those balls that are about going to move down that fork. And then where are they going to go when they get to the center? Stunning image, stays in. This one too is
Refractions and
another
reflection.
amazing image. Yep.
This is refractions and
And
reflections.
reflections. It took me, when I first looked at this image, I passed over it. I said, another image. And then I came back and I looked. I said, oh my gosh, there is so much in this image. Not only do we have the reflections, but we have the refraction, the face below, which initially I didn't pick out. And then this forced me back in to look at this image over and over and over again. You know, do I care that there might be some blown out highlights? Not in the least. This image is really wonderful, really well thought out, and is held.
Shark Tank.
Beautiful composition here, beautiful impact on it. I enlarged it a bit. This is one of the images that I think was decent in size, and that hammerhead shark is beautifully done in it. It's stunningly well composed and thought out. I can't think of a thing that I would do to improve it, except hopefully take it myself someday. Stays in.
Steamy Lake.
You know what this one reminded me of? It reminded me of a photograph shot in the 1920s, let's say, with an old style camera. And I wondered if this was done with an analog old camera or not. The tree is placed perfectly, yet has tubs of detail in it. All the trees in the background have enough detail.
I like it.
All the ground in the front does, and the steaminess of it. This is definitely a held picture.
Storm over the Rio Grande.
Beautifully done again. Not cut in half. The bridge is sharp. Everything on it is sharp. The storm is there, and showing its might over nature. The foreground is perfectly done again, like all of your photographs, literally. This one stays in, held.
The last one is Sunny Side Up.
Yeah, I couldn't make up my mind with this picture, if it was upside down or not. I thought, and again, this is one that's 2.4 megabytes, like it should be, sharp, good. Each one of these lights is slightly different. Each one makes it for an interesting part of the image itself. Whomever saw this really saw a great image.
Nope. Do you see it now? I've got to move this. Do you see it now?
Now we do.
You do? Okay.
We see.
Yeah, I have 6 images up.
We
Yeah.
see the
So we're going to
thumbnails.
go through color first. And I will start with the honorable mentions. And the first honorable mention is this one. Hello Spring by me. So that is an infrared, not totally converted. And I realized what you said, Carl, about decreasing the black space on the left and right. Yeah, I thought of that. I want to say something about why it is so extremely black. I found this material, it's from South Korea, and it absorbs something like 99% of light.
Wow.
Doesn't reflect it. It is totally black. And I pasted it on a board and put it up in back of it. I'll be happy later to tell people about this strange material.
It certainly worked.
Yeah, it's good to know it's infrared.
Yeah,
Darryl,
infrared
because
color.
made really interesting colors with both the flower and then the rest of the plant.
Yeah, that's why I decided not to do the total conversion to infrared.
What infrared filter is on the camera?
Jet Blue by Vivian Lynch. I thought this was terrific. It was unusual.
Thanks. I was just sitting, we were sitting in, where were we at Jekyll Island, having lunch, and these birds, of course, wanted our lunch. So I just shot a ton of pictures, and this guy was just as cute as can be. So anyway, that's what I did with it.
Was he sitting near you, like on a rail?
Yes, he was very close.
And is
We
that
were right
the
up
sky
to
in the back, or is that
the sky. Mm-hmm.
It really was.
Yeah, so that's the sky. It was a beautiful day. It was high noon, And I just got, he was just right there.
Yeah, it's a great use of negative space,
He looks-
and having his head go straight down towards the corner. Wow.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I found this very creative as well. And of course, because it is from Mike Schaefer. Mike?
Yeah, let me get my, okay. Yeah, I was telling Carl and Daryl, this took a long time to shoot. I just took weeks, just took my time, because trying to shoot spoons without reflection is so difficult. So basically I use weights, literally metal weights to hold. I didn't have anything to hold the spoons with practically. So I used weights on both sides and held the spoons down. Trying to get those at the right angle took some time. And then I had to get them at the right height. And then I used a dome versus a square box for, to put them in. And then the background, like Gennaro did, I just printed the background and hung it behind it. And so the idea was to try to minimize those block splotches that you get from the right, you get a box, and even if the whole box is white, you get these corners that are going to be black because of the shadowing. So that will reflect off the spoons. And so once I got that setup done and was satisfied with it, then I just had a hole at the top and had a remote and just started pouring honey in over and over again until I got what I wanted. So this is what transpired.
It was honey. I wondered.
Yeah, it was
Like
honey.
a lot of
Yeah.
people wondered.
Yeah, it took about, it took a whole thing of honey to get the right shot. So,
What gave you that idea?
huh?
What gave you the idea for that shot?
Probably just a waterfall. You get a waterfall and you get water coming down sometimes or something like that. And I thought I don't know, maybe I dreamed it, but it just came to my mind. There's something to do.
Third place is Jesus Saves by, we know when we see something like this surreal, it is Michael Burris. And as my colleagues at Emory in the humanities would say, deconstruct it.
Interesting, yes.
Take it apart.
Yeah, this was actually the first shot that I had. I got a camera to convert to infrared. And this area that was close to my house, this is like 1970s kind of hippie house. And this is how the front was. And I didn't think very much of the image, but I just started playing around with it in Photoshop and trying to do all kinds of different distortions with crystals and so forth. And so this is what came out.
Oh, so it was hippiedom, crystals. Right. Interesting.
Yes.
And that was third place. Second place is Musical Perspective by, clicked the wrong. Musical Perspective by Mike Schaefer, who set this one up too, but it would be
Yeah,
difficult.
I've tried many guitar shots, as you folks know, and some have worked and some haven't been so good. But this was a wall hanging I got at Hobby Lobby. And it's actually a ukulele duplicate, but it's not a real instrument you can play, but it's a wall hanging. So if you want some interesting objects to photograph, still life, go to Hobby Lobby, you'll find all sorts of things there. They are closed on Sunday, by the way. And so I found this there and I thought that would really work. It was clean. It was something you hang on the wall. And so I decided to shoot it and used like a small headlamp you use for camping to light the center a little bit above the light box. So this was in a light box. So finally I got a guitar shot that
what made the line between the dark and the light? That
was created in what I did is I had a background, but you can't get a line that sharp without in a light box. So I had to clean it up in Photoshop to get the line that sharp. So that's how that worked. But it's very hard to get a straight line like that, naturally, because they're going to touch each other. And so I just went in Photoshop and cleaned that up to make it straight and clean between the two different tones.
This is first prize. It is by Michelle Simmons, who, as I've mentioned, would be running this program tonight, but she is helping her brother in Florida with a medical problem. And it is a Photoshop, an iPhone picture. You may know she flew off to Dubai a few weeks ago came back raving. She said it was unbelievable because it was some sort of international fair where different countries had their pavilions. That's why, remember the one that was Finnish? But then there were these people running around with hijabs on. That was because it was the Finnish pavilion. And I don't know what this bridge was. It probably is just naturally there in Dubai. But for those who don't know her, she went to art school and then decided that she wasn't that didn't have a good enough income.
Yep.
So she became an electrical engineer and had a career with people like Georgia Power in electrical engineering, retired, and she's this double threat. She's got the artistic eye and she likes technology. So she does all this with iPhones. She's going to give a presentation for us later this month, the annual program about how you do these things with iPhones. She's talked with us before. It is fantastic. You'll get the word and the link for it.
I think it's mostly going to be about her trip and her shooting there.
Yeah, I think we'll hear a lot of
Yeah, that's
about
what's focused
Dubai, right? Okay, now I have to try to move to go to mono, and we'll start looking at those. So there are 5 ribbons by our usual count. Yes, it would be 4. But Carl bent our arms and told us he really liked these things and he had to have a 5th one. So the honorable mention, the first one is Elegant Design by guess who?
That's splendid.
Mike, how'd you do it?
Hobby Lobby. I got those vases at Hobby Lobby at a very low price. And, you know, this is a classic photograph. And again, this is the kind of triangular composition you see in painters like Raphael. You look at a Raphael painting, the Madonna, usually St. Anne, or even Leonardo da Vinci, and of course the Bambino Jesus, you see a triangular composition. And so that's what you're seeing here is a very traditional Renaissance style triangular composition. And this was done in my light box, which I'm glad I bought, and had that headlight with a kind of a dispersion filter over it, if you will, and from the right side when you're looking at this. And I used my flash and on manual and had a soft set it manually, so it'd be a very soft flash in the front. And after some efforts and mistakes and goof ups with lighting, I finally got what I wanted out of it. So it came out really well. I was quite pleased with it.
There is no seam between the floor and the wall.
Right.
Is it a curved thing?
It's curved this time. It's like it's a piece of kind of colored plastic you get when you get the light box. All these different colors come with it. But in this case, I shot it. What I did is I decided to use a filter on the camera over it to get that light orange color, kind of the color I got from it. It was a Lee filter. And I found that if I did the filter in front of the camera in lieu of using Photoshop, I got a softer feel to it because of the filter, the physical filter. And so I didn't want it to be harsh. I wanted it to be soft, and that filter softened it just a little bit as compared to Photoshop.
This light box was from Hobby Lobby as well?
No, I got the light box on Amazon. I've had that for a while.
I wonder.
What size is your light box, Mike?
Oh, it's
Describe it.
it's probably it's square, and you fold it up like a suitcase, and it comes with lights in it. You can use those or not, 2 like strips of lights, real bright ones. And then it folds up like a box. So I'd say it's about, I'm trying to guess about 20, maybe 24 inches by 24 inches, like a box. And it folds up like a suitcase. I could send you what it is.
Yeah, we like to know that.
But you got it around. It's unique. It comes with all these different plastic things that you can put in different colors and stuff, like both sides.
It's not a dome. It's a cube?
No, it's a cube, but I made the dome for the spoons myself.
Yes.
Because those things you buy for those things you buy to put over to keep water from getting in your basement, where you have the gutter thing, whatever they call it. You buy 2 of those. They're big, but you buy 2 of those and you put them together, you kind of get a dome out of it. That's what I did for that.
Because
I one shot.
because we all want to go get one now.
Yes,
Okay, well,
That's just
I want
gorgeous.
one.
we'll have an outing been called Shopping with Mike.
well,
There you
it's a nice product. It's not perfect, but it really does a good job. And it's got all these different holes in it from the front and the top. You can pull the thing off and that kind of stuff. So
This one is from Al McLeod, and it is Steamy Lake. Where was it, Al?
No, that's Crow's Lake here in Jefferson, and it's a pretty good sized lake. But when we had the cold weather, a cold snap, I was trying to get some fall pictures actually, and a little bit past that, but the steam off the lake was just so impressive. The only bad thing about it was you have to get there so early in the morning, because it's strictly a crack of dawn sort of picture.
All right.
Just taken by it.
That's nice.
And you did not use an old camera, as Carl suspected.
I did not use an old camera. I did not.
All right. The third place is Big C by Al McLeod again.
I knew it was Al.
and that is Big C. He's a kind of a blues singer. Saw him in Athens and got a bunch of good shots. So, but I had a really nice set of him. I think I was pretty well taken with. But this is the first time I decided to try one in black and white and get a little more sort of blues, jazz, gritty look to it. And so there it is.
Al does quite a few photos of performers, and particularly jazz performers.
Al, you did a great job on just getting the shadowing.
Yeah,
right.
the lighting is
Really good job.
Yeah, lighting is really good on that.
Thank you. Thank you.
the second place is this strange thing from
That's not fair.
Michael Burris.
How would you know that? This picture is, I like the straight image, the girl, and I was fiddling around and I was saying, what would it look like if it was taken through one of those pieces of glass that refracted, and I figured out a way of doing it, and then I just inverted it, and it's pretty much a
This was all
straight shot.
done in computer.
What's that?
This was all done in computer.
Not the main image. Yeah, but the rest of it was. Yeah.
But I mean, you did not have a refractive glass and put it on the print of the image or anything like that.
No.
Okay.
Like I said, it was a straight shot of the girl.
All right.
For those of you who are old enough, the title appropriate might be called Sybil.
Yes, I know
That's
that.
not bad.
Yes.
That's not a
But
bad.
how many personalities were there? 3?
12.
12. Okay. Now, for those who sometime took physics, you will know about the title of this image by Mike Schaefer, Potential Energy.
Well, the last time I entered this, I put a light bulb in there and I reshot it and blurred it. And I called Jim and said, the dumb judge didn't get it. So I thought, well, I'm not the dumb judge. I was just basically saying he just didn't understand it. And I understand that. But anyway,
Please take the arrow out of the picture.
Anyway, this one is used black acrylic. That's how I got the reflection.
Yep.
In that box I told you about. And again, the challenge is trying to get the right lighting to forks, because they just reflect everything. So one key element, you want to make sure the lighting is reflecting off something else, like the ceiling of a white thing. You have to move the lights around all the time and adjust it until you get it right. It takes forever. But finally I got the lighting right. And in Photoshop, I did fix some of the flaws, but there weren't that many. But anyway, that's on top of that is a marble on top of there. I painted it white with acrylic white paint. I didn't have a ping pong ball. And so I put that on top. I used one of those little sticky things you can buy and stuck it on it to keep the ball from moving. And then the forks you can bounce the forks without any sticky stuff. So once I got it balanced, then I shot it, and in time I got the right shot. So the idea was, I like the force because it made a wave effect, like the wave of energy. That's why I like it.
Right, but I think, because I did take physics, potential, I mean, it's sitting there full of potential energy to roll downhill, which will be expressed in rolling downhill.
That's
and
right.
The idea of making the hill by 3 forks.
Yeah.
That was
Gravitational potential energy, assuming it was taken on a planet with positive gravity.
Okay. Now, the folks need to know that Jim Harrison has an undergraduate degree from MIT, and that's why he said that.
Okay.
I was just quoting Mr. Spock.
I would change the name to kinetic energy.
But shooting silverware is very difficult, and you have to understand how light, certain angles, light diffraction, light. It's just very difficult to do. And if you really want to improve your skills in terms of understanding how light works, try to shoot silverware, and you'll learn pretty quickly and get frustrated, but it's worth the effort.
Okay,
the lighting you used on the elegant design, I think that's terrific. I mean, you look at the image and it replicates the way you lit it. It looks like daylight coming from the right side.
Yeah. It only about
very soft.
50 million tries later, I finally got the light the way I wanted it. It just took practice. That's all I can tell you.
It was a tough competition tonight.
It looks like the lighting that was used in Dutch paintings.
Yeah. Very
Carl
soft.
did a great job.
Thank you.
Again. And
Great comments, Carl.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. It was a great pleasure doing it.
For
Yes,
Michelle's talk about doing Dubai with an iPhone.
Yeah. I love the link to that and see what her pictures are. Can you do that
I'll
for
make a
me?
note. I'll make a
Yep.
note. Okay. Bye.
Well, thank you.
Very good.
Everybody.
Thank
You're
you very
welcome,
much.
everybody. Good night.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Carol.
Carl.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you.
Congratulations to everybody who did well. So everybody, for sure.